Good morning.
Hi, Claire.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
So today on our Spotlight On, we have a very special guest. We have Jonathan Zohar, who is one of the co-founders and directors of ARZO, which you can see on his t-shirt. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about what it is that he does, kind of his background, how he got there, and some of his thoughts around diversity in tech world and some of the challenges, also, some of just the circumstantial roadblocks that we face in this industry. So can you tell us a little bit, because you've had quite an interesting journey to starting ARZO. Can you tell us how you got there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hopefully, I'll keep it quick because otherwise it'll take the whole time that we've got. So starting ARZO was an interesting journey in that I worked in operations and channel strategy and sort of the tech arm of call centers, but on the operational side. And I worked for quite large organizations like Telstra and NAB, and one of the other co-founder, Ross, who's the R in ARZO, he and I worked together for a really, really long time. And every time I'd go and move somewhere else, I'd always inevitably give Ross a call and say, hey, you're really smart, do you want to come with me? And inevitably he said yes. So Ross and I worked together for almost 15 years. And then when we were working at the bank, we had an opportunity to be made redundant, which was quite exciting. So we plotted and decided that we would take that redundancy if it was available to us, and that would give us our safety net to go and start something and to do it together after all the years that we spent together. So that did actually eventuate, and we started ARZO, and Kimberly, who's my partner, and by the time this comes out will be my wife, which is exciting. She had historically run small businesses and managed a lot of law firms and accounting firms. So we brought her on as a third equal share in the organization so that she would run the business, because we learned very quickly in the first few couple of weeks even that just because you know how to run an ops team or about call centers, it doesn't necessarily about how to run an organization and do the bookkeeping and accounting and interface with lawyers and contracts and whatnot.
Platform is the best.
What was sorry, Claire?
Which invoicing platform is the best?
That's right. So Kim joined immediately as well. So she has been running the business from the start, and then we brought on Anita Williams, who's also been on one of these, and Anita has been around the industry for a really long time and actually was my boss a million years ago, but she's amazing, and she was working at another consulting business that she wasn't particularly enjoying. So we also gave her a quarter of the business so that she would come over and bring a bit of authenticity. No, that's probably the wrong word, but she brought a bit of experience and a really, really big network to the group, which let us sort of explode from there. So we had all intentions of being really, really small, and we wanted to just take what we did for big organizations and do it for small organizations and make that knowledge and skills accessible. Because what's really interesting in the tech space is that historically all of that tech was really, really expensive and really complex to get set up, and you needed really, really good people to run it. And I think the larger organizations did that. But as that tech became far more accessible, as you know in your role, Claire, you can get some pretty sophisticated contact center tech in the cloud really easily stood up and made available. But one of the challenges can be that because the barrier to entry now is so much lower, people don't give the platform the love and respect that it needs. It needs to be managed and run to get the most out of it, and to link what you're actually investing into the outcomes that you're looking for. So our idea was that we could go and take all that skill set and take those sort of big corporate enterprise level strategies and apply them to much smaller organizations. And we did do a lot of that, but then COVID hit, and there were a lot of large organizations that had to mobilize a heap of their workforce to work from home, and that required tech, and not just the tech, but policy and executing on those new strategies. And that really helped us. So although COVID, particularly in Melbourne, was very, very challenging, purely from a ARZO perspective, it was almost the best thing that ever happened to us. And Anita joined us in literally March 2020, and there was a bit of a moment where we were wondering whether this was a good idea, but retrospectively we went ahead and we stuck to our strategy, and retrospectively it was absolutely the right thing to do.
And given you guys are probably one of the fastest growing businesses in Australia, and things are kind of going strength to strength, I would argue it's gone quite well as a strategy, even if it wasn't completely planned to explode that much that quickly. But
no, we were hoping to have a really nice, relaxing consulting business where we could work, every now and then, do a bit of a contract and then take a break. But now we've got about 25 staff, and I don't think I've slept for 5 years. It's great.
It's great. And quite unusual in tech world. So I've been around tech world, as you know, for a long time, too long. And unusually for a tech company, ARZO has 50-50 in terms of male-female management, but also in terms of staff, you're pretty evenly split. I don't know the exact percentage. It might be 48-52, but it's pretty close. And that is having worked in tech world and with tech companies for, well over a decade, is unusual. And in terms of your hiring process, because obviously you being one of the main hiring managers, how do you kind of manage your hiring process? Because one of the biggest bits of feedback I've gotten, particularly doing these interviews, but just in the industry in general, is the skills shortage causes a real problem for a lot of any kind of goals people have towards diversity, whether it's, gender, race, anything, it's minorities, the pool is often really small, particularly in this industry, that you might have these grand ambitions for all this kind of diversity, and then you get 2 applicants for a job. So you have to pick one of the 2.
Yeah, that is a really good question, and I hopefully I don't waffle too much, because I think that's a really hard question to answer. Our hiring policy has evolved over time. So our first core group of hires were people that we knew. So we have 100+ years of experience in the industry through the directors, and we handpicked all the best people we knew, and that had absolutely was not biased towards gender preferences, ethnicity, just not something that we even saw or considered. We had been around for a while, and we looked for the best people that we could get. So our first sort of 10 to 15 hires were really inner circle, people that we had worked with for a really long time, that we love, and our friends, and that we really care for. And then, as we sort of, hired all the great people that we knew, we started to have to look outside of that, and we did a lot of referrals. So we sort of leveraged that group of people to say, all right, who are the people that that you trust and would like to work with? But as we've sort of grown to a certain point now, we are having to go externally, and that has been challenging. And I think that's challenging for a few reasons. Like you said, there is a bit of a skills shortage. So we just try and hire the people with the right skill set first and foremost. We have been really lucky that has translated to quite a diverse team, and I think it brings a heap to the table, because when we have our extended leadership conversations, or just our whole of ARZO sessions, there's just so many different views and opinions, and I think that's the real benefit of diversity. But I think in terms of hiring policy, I wouldn't say there is a strong policy around diversity, other than that we're looking for the right people, and we want to put things in place that promote diversity. So I'll give you an example, right? We can say that we have we're just looking for the right people. But if you say you must work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, you must sit at your desk, you must be in the office, you must do X and Y. So we have really inclusive policies internally around flexibility. My personal view is always you just do what you need to do to get it done. And really the only anchor is, are you meeting with the customer? So as long as you stick to your commitments, I don't mind if you're doing pickups and drop-offs, and that equates to, that's not just for females, because we've got a few single dads in the team who also do pickups and drop-offs, and that inclusivity and that flexibility in our workplace policy, I think, really supports that. So we've had a few people who had, particularly when we've approached people, and we're sort of solving a challenge for them that they're having with other organizations. They're pretty eager to join us, and they like the culture, and they like that view that you just, we trust you. We've hired you because you're great. Now you just need to get it done, and whatever that looks like to you, whether that's, you can only work for 4 hours during the day and then you pick it up again after dinner, that's absolutely no problem, as long as there's no customer impacts.
And having worked with you guys for quite a while, like a number of years now, I think I can verify that your team is everywhere. Like, I mean, you're in New Zealand, some people are in Melbourne, some people are in the Gold Coast, and there isn't any kind of micromanaging part of like, it's 9:02, why are you not online kind of thing.
100%. Our entire policy boils down to get the right people and get out of their way, and just let them be great. And great people covers the spectrum of all, diversities. That's a word. It covers the spectrum across, all those different things. So our challenge is actually finding the right people. We're kind of blind to everything else.
Yeah.
So if you know anyone, let us know, because we're always looking.
Anyone out there? Know anyone?
Yeah.
That actually does. It's one of the things I hear most from like my own network. If they're looking for jobs, is flexibility is really core, and like, obviously the right amount, like being paid well and all that, but like that layer of flexibility is amazing. And in terms of, you mentioned some of the single dads doing pickups or whatever, drop-offs, and I know that was you 20 years ago. Do you think that influenced some of that kind of, I guess, understanding of people's circumstances might not be just cut and dry?
Oh, of course. Having gone through that myself, that's something that was embedded in my thinking, that I can do my job anywhere, anytime, and I shouldn't be penalized for having a life, essentially, and having important things that needed to be prioritized. So as much as we love working and sometimes work too hard, life is a lot more than that, and it's about finding that balance and letting people balance the way that they need to balance, because everyone's got a different story and everyone's got different priorities and everyone's got different challenges, and so it does come back to find the right people and let them, and get out of their way, and just let them do what they need to do to get it done.
It changes at different stages of life. Like, you would have obviously had it when your daughter was young, like you have to do the drop off and they have to be at school at a certain time and all that. But obviously she's not 4 anymore.
No.
So
she's 19 now.
That's less of a pressing issue, having to drop her to school. So some of those lifestyle, I guess, or lifestyle is probably the wrong word, flexibility challenges that people might face often are also short term, depending on what they are. And I think the ethos advantage is very similar, where it's very like, okay, you need to do it, just get your work done. Like, we're not worried. We'd rather, short term work around you having to be gone for half an hour at 8:30 than long term not have you at all if you're really good at your job.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what you get when you treat people as people, is that they give the organization the respect as well. So they're not trying to cheat us because we're making things really easy. And that's a really odd choice of words, but you know what I mean? If you give people respect and you give them the ability to, and treat them as humans, then they treat the organization equally with respect. It does help that, again, we've hired a lot of people that are really close to us, and that has really shaped our policies as well. So, you know, I think we would always have been that way, but having people that are close to us, that are genuinely our friends, you know, we treat them as our friends. You treat them as you would want to be treated. And I
As
think,
humans.
and you know, we would, as I said, we would have always done that, but it made it really, really easy to do it because there's no bias, there's no unconscious where you say it, but then you do something different. We talk the talk, but we walk the walk because, you know, these people were really important to us, especially in the early days. Well, sorry, that's really bad. As always, even including now, but you know, when we first started and we brought that really tight inner circle in, it was really flexible, and it's remained that way. And you know, again, just to bring up COVID, I don't think you could probably have these at the moment without talking about COVID, because COVID really shaped a lot of these things. You know, giving people that became really challenging with, you know, especially with kids having to do learning from home. I think a lot of people had to do a lot of their work at really strange hours, and it would have been quite unfortunate if we had to be rigid in the way people work, because I think we would have lost a lot of good people, and we would have just not been doing the right thing by people. And I think that at our core is really important to us, that, you know, we're treating people well. The other thing as well, which I didn't say earlier, is, you know, we pay people well, because I think part of this is also, you know, paying above market, and that helps attract talent. But I don't think people can really focus on their work when they can't, when, you know, when their life becomes too challenging, and that comes and goes. And we've had a lot of really interesting things happen at ARZO that we've been unequipped for, but being guided by that philosophy has been really good for us. But you know, we want people to be able to live comfortable lives, and that also influences their ability to sort of be flexible and how they work and when they work, because they're not worrying about, you know, how they're going to pay rent.
I was going to say, it's really hard to focus on the report you're supposed to be building if your electricity bill is due and you don't know how you're going to pay it.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's key. We mentioned your daughter a couple of times. Has having a daughter who's now kind of grown up, not quite 19, a little bit grown up, kind of influenced some of your outlook on how you would like the workplace to look?
Yeah, look, I think it has. Obviously, I don't think I could have gotten through the last 19 years without it influencing the way I think about the world. You know, she's a young woman now. She's 19, and I want her to be able to do whatever she wants to do and not be held back by anything. So it really does keep coming back to this philosophy of just letting people be people, and, you know, supporting them and giving them opportunities and bringing them into a diverse workplace where they do get to meet different people and get to have different opinions, and they're not just dominated by one sort of stereotypical IT guy, which, you know, we've all been there. If you look back,
We've all been.
we've all been there. And you know, if you look back 20 years ago, it was all a pretty similar cookie cutter stereotypical IT guy that we all used to work with. And even for me, that was interesting because I was really young. So because I had my daughter really young, it made me, well, I didn't even have it. I'd never actually even worked when that was happening. So I went and got a job for the first time, and started thinking about how I would be able to provide and support, and even my experience as a really young, I was 19, 19, 20, starting to work in tech. And even for me, that was strange because, you know, I was just a kid, and, you know, I still didn't fit in with that sort of mold of what your classic tech employee was. So even as a male, it didn't, I don't think I had the most standard entry into the workforce, nor into technology.
No, I would say definitely not. We're just
Mm.
coming up on time, so on a slightly more lighter personal note, what is something that people might not know about you? They're watching.
Oh, that's a hard one, because everyone who knows me knows that I have verbal diarrhea, and once you get past a certain point, I'll tell you absolutely everything about me. What do people not know about me? I'm very well. I love my music. I'm big into music. I play a lot of instruments very, very poorly, but it doesn't matter because that's not going to be my career. But you know, my absolute passion is music. Listening to it, going to gigs, playing. I won't unblur my camera, but I literally have far too many instruments around me at the moment, which is why it's blurred. But yeah, there's that. That's probably my release valve from tech. And I love to pick up a guitar. You know, when a meeting finishes 5 minutes early, and I feel like it grounds me and brings me back to reality. And just especially when you know you're getting stressed or things are feeling a bit tense. I feel like music is a really, really good release, and it connects your sort of left and right brain. I feel like it's actually really good for creativity, and I think music and work and is a really interesting and good combo. So if anyone plays an instrument, put it next to your desk at work and make it really easy to just pick it up, and you'll appreciate, you'll thank me for it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk to us. It's Jonathan Zohar from ARZO.
Thanks.